Hi, Carolina. Thank you for joining us. Your audio is slowly connecting. I'm going to do just a quick introduction, and then I'll let you share your screen and show your amazing looped animated portraits. Can't wait to hear how you created those. Okay. So if anyone doesn't know Carolina, she is Italian, based in Sardinia, I believe. I'm not sure. Are you originally from Sardinia?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, beautiful part of the world. Quite near Corsica as well. So Carolina is a multi-talented creative, specializing in animation, art direction, and illustration. She's more of a director of animation rather than one who's sort of really technical in the weeds, but obviously she knows how to code and is going to delve into some of her pieces of art and how she created those. And she's worked with some incredible clients over the years, from Microsoft to the BBC to Sony to Prada. So I guess across media, tech, and the fashion industry. You can read the rest of her bio. We'll obviously link to her website so you can check out her art. Maybe you'll be interested in buying her NFTs that she's soon to be releasing. And now I'll pass it over to you, Carolina.
Okay, here I am. Thank you for the great introduction. And I'm going to start sharing the screen. Let me see if I, okay. So.
Great. Yes, I can see your presentation. Perfect.
Okay, great. So let me introduce a bit more about my work, because as you said, I am I come from a background which is a bit unusual, because I come from dance. Dance was my first passion, my first love, and it was something that led me to explore a bit more some questions around the whole field of dance related to movement, dance notation, and scoring. And before I started working in animation, I was I was basically a choreographer, and the two things are not very different. They both involve movement and composition, music, lots of using the timeline and the space in different ways. Later, I started thinking very much about the word choreography itself, how the word meant both the art of writing movement, so the actual notations, which basically translate into coding, and also the composition of the movement itself. And I was fascinated by how a single word, a single discipline could actually combine the two different fields together. So on one side you have the writing, no? And on the other side the composition. And that led me to explore a bit more the world of animation. And so I started looking. My first exploration animation was using early software like Flash, to try to find a way to create dance scoring on dance scores on the timeline. So instead of writing dance on a piece of paper, I just thought, okay, because this involves time and movement, it needs to be equally dynamic. And that was 20 years ago. And then the technology evolved, my interest evolved. I started working a bit more commercially as an animation director. I started working started directing music videos. My first kind of professional experience was at MTV. Later, I moved to I started working with a production company, fantastic production company in London called Nexus, and I was directing music videos, commercials, title sequels, short films. And all these projects were based on the timeline, and they were linear pieces basically following a structure, a solid structure, which was beginning end, and also a very traditional process, which meant kind of designing the characters first, then storyboard the narrative, then develop that into an animatic, and then at the very last stage to kind of create the animation, which was all very fascinating, but it wasn't really answering my interest in choreography, more as a kind of like a more dynamic and explorative field. So what I did, I started looking more into over the years, I started my interest in choreography kind of faded out a little bit, and then I started focusing a bit more about character design, and I design traditional characters, which is kind of very kind of the right ratio and caricature and all that, until recently, where I designed a series of experiments which were kind of taking the face back to very simple lines and shapes. So I designed this first character, putting as a rule to myself not to use more than a set number of shapes and colors, and not unfitting all these shapes in a grid. Something which kind of reminds a lot as a kid's toy. I think probably I was inspired by this because my son at that time was 5 years old, so he was playing with similar toys. And this, so I said, okay, well, how can I develop this first design into a series of characters, all kind of following similar rules, but having different personality, different identities. And I created first animation, which is called Birichina, which is kind of like the background of my generative project, the one I'm going to introduce later. And this experiment kind of is an ongoing transition between characters, all different, but all kind of following the same rules. So it's kind of a community of portraits, all made of simple shapes, cubes, and a very basic palette of colors. I'm going to play the video. I hope it plays properly because there might be some delay, but let's see.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank
It's
you.
great. It's got so much personality.
Okay, one thing I didn't mention earlier is that as over the years, I started collaborating more and more with lots of talented professionals. And so I started working much more as a director and the creative person behind projects. So thinking more about the concept, the research, and then so I often collaborate with animators, creative coders, musicians, illustrators. This particular project was realized with a very close friend of mine, Michela Bruno. Has been working on the animation, and so the way we work was that kind of just is an ongoing conversation. Whether I say, okay, I want to do this, how do we do it? She suggests something, I try something else. It's a real pleasure when you find people that share the same sensibility and understand your project, and I'm very grateful for this collaboration that I've developed over the years. So this one was a first attempt, but obviously there is nothing. It's a very traditional animation in a sense that it follows the timeline. It's very timed to music, and even though I started here setting myself some very strict rules and some limitation, it is a linear piece. You know? So I thought, how can I develop this concept further? How can I push it, the rules, and make it even more strict so that the generations of the faces occurs without my supervision? So how can I create a whole community, not a single face, but a whole community of faces, creating kind of an overall set of rules that kind of create a tribe, you know, so I started back from a very kind of pencil sketch. So I thought, okay, how can I this is something I do a lot. Often when I get lost on the computer, and I find myself like kind of playing too much with kind of the graphics, I just think, okay, I need to go back to and draw on paper. So I started sketching a lot on paper, trying to find ways to design faces using basically just two shapes, the circle and the line. And so how can I, is it possible to create a lots of different expressions, a lot of different personalities, just without adding any kind of details or unnecessary effects. So this phase kind of stayed like kind of was a reference for all the work. Every time I was going too far and was losing the original idea, I would look back at his face as a reminder of where I started. And so I thought, okay, how can I translate that concept into something much more structured? So I introduced the grid. The grid helped me a lot to think more as a system rather than a loose illustration. So I said, okay, if the face is actually a grid, they need to place, to kind of assign a specific space for the eyes, a specific space for the nose and the mouth, and everything else will be generated and create kind of the identity of the face. So let me see. So I translate the grid into a more kind of into a rationale for the composition. So each space on the grid had a specific name, and I started kind of setting the rules for the colors, and so by adding more and more rules, I was just trying kind of defining more the limitations and the possibilities of the project. by the way, all this, the explanation about all this project is on a dedicated website for the project. This is kubikino.com. So then as I'm very passionate about graphic design, and I started graphically, designing every single element of the tile. So it's every tile is very complex. I'm trying to simplify. Every tile consists of a number of loops, all deriving from the circle and following a certain number of rules are based on direction, overlapping, and colors. This one is just an explanation of how I design the eyes, but there are kind of hundreds and hundreds of variations of this. Here, I created, as I was progressing into this project, which it took me over a year, actually, I created a video, which was kind of an idea to present the idea to the team I was working with, and also to clarify the project to myself. And is a bit of a promotional video, and it shows not the final piece, but how the idea behind the concept, how it works, and how I started from the grid until the very end, which is kind of the placing the face into imaginary spaces. Okay, so again, let's hope we can.
Wow, fantastic.
Thank you. So this video is, I wanted to add a bit of an emotion as well to this project. So just, okay, when you design character in traditional animation, you always think about where would they live, what music would they listen to, and you try to understand actually who these people are. And it's the same for these characters, which are effectively some characters. I wanted to imagine something that was going further what was presented in the NFTs. That's why I created these spaces that were kind of connected with the geometrical shapes they were made of, but had more a sense of 3D space. So then here I'm going back a little bit, because as I was designing these cubikinos, I started looking at faces and identity representation from all different ages, from traditional mask to recent avatars. And there's been something that is not a trend, but always existed, is actually the urgency of representing an identity through a face, whether it's a mask or a digital avatar. So I was fascinated to see what kind of geometrical shapes each expression would contain and what would they represent. So here is just an image of some of the research I made and how I tried to use kind of existing mask and trying to recognize some shapes within the mask that would kind of enhance their personality. So triangles, circle, blue, red, no that. And so based on that research, I started kind of building again my characters on the grid. And so this research inspired to design eyes, to design kind of to understand how the mind would read certain types of features. So, for instance, black and white would read in a certain way. Red gives a sense of kind of danger, and but obviously different cultures have different interpretations. What was interesting for me in this project was the idea of creating a community which had some characteristics of most communities, in the sense some faces of some identities might be more similar, so more common, but different. So we might find, for instance, many of these cubiquinos with similar eyes, and then some other features are very rare in a positive or negative way, because maybe they are rare because they are important, rare because they are not special, they are not particularly likable. But it's important that there is a kind of variation also in the density of some characteristic, and that makes that's the concept of rarity in digital generative arts. And when I was working with the creative coder on this project, Enrico Penzo, an amazing partner on this project, we had an ongoing conversation about his whole idea of rarities and similarities, because even though the project looks very simple, it's because it's simple is difficult. It's very as Munari, which is a great artist I always refer to, says it's very difficult to making difficult things is simple, making simple things is difficult. Yeah, and it's exactly like that. So, eventually, I'm very happy because I mean, the project is going to be launched in a few months. So I don't know, we did so many tests. I know more or less what to expect, but I'm very excited about to see the actual results, because we will know only on when the faces are going to actually be minted or minted generated. So here are some other examples of the faces. By the way, these faces are animated, and they all start with from the plus sign, which is the nose. Then the plus sign kind of symbolically represent a new one in, no, +1, and then the nose generates and kind of all different other tiles, and then we have a fully composed face. Something else which I realized how I was progressing on this project, just how actually I could think beyond the faces. I could think about these elements as they could generate something else. For instance, a piece of typography, and or other type of, or a pattern, or moving wallpaper, all sorts of things. And so this is, so possibly my next project is going to be about, I don't know, something moving pattern, generative patterns. And these are the ambience I created. Again, had an amazing collaborators for this, which is Guido Medici, and together we were thinking about how to create an imaginary world for these kubikinos. And we're thinking, okay, let's not think about some flat pieces. They should go off the screen and become 3D objects. And so we were looking about architecture and sculpture. So this one is airspace. Another one which is a bit more oniric with again a sculpture that features the shapes but in a 3D perspective, and the whole idea of balance. And as we were making these images, I just think, okay, these images, they need to represent what this project is about. It's about shape, but it's also about composition, and it's about balance, proximity. But I also wanted to think about kind of taking them off outside. So this one is an idea of an outdoor, and this one is black and white, about it was the very first composition, and I like the fact that this card is looking down as this mess, and it's thinking, it's just thought it was a bit ironic. So I have a website, which is kubikino.com, a dedicated website for this project. And there is much more about this if you're interested. And this project is going to be, has been submitted to Art Blocks, and they accepted it, and they're going to release it on the 1st of December, I believe. And I'm very excited to be part of this platform, which is an amazing platform for generative arts. And I can't wait to see how it goes. So thank you.
Fantastic. Congratulations, a year worth of work. You make it seem so simple.
Yeah.
You're a real true artist in all sense of the word. And I like the fact that this is also a creative collaborative project. How did you end up working with this team, and how did you find that synergy? Because I think that's important for people to realize that, you know, when they move into this space, it can be daunting with all of these tools, to realize what your strengths are and then find people to potentially collaborate with. Can you talk us a little bit about
yeah, actually that's one of the most important part of every work, not only in generative arts, but it's just to every creative work is to find the right partners. And this one was a real gamble, because it was a completely different world for me. So we looked at a few people, a few that kind of but I was looking for a partner with kind of that would share a similar sensibility. So not only a very technical person, but also someone with a vision and someone who could help me to suggest me ideas. I mean, I feel collaborations are always two ways. Whether even though this is a project I initiated, I'm always very open to feedbacks and to suggestions, and Reiko was amazing finding solution for some of the trickiest part. If you ask me where I found him, I don't remember exactly. I met him after 1 year. We worked together. We met by chance in Milan because we were both at the design week, and then we met there, and possibly now we start working on a new project together, which is I can't talk about it, but it's fascinating, and yeah, it's happens like this. Sometimes it's usually now you meet people online, which is strange. You meet people like on sharing work, you get appreciation, then you start looking at each other's work and you start sharing ideas, and then maybe you have a project together. It's more and more common.
Yeah, and fantastic. And could you tell us a little bit about, this is clearly a new kind of category of art. We saw lots of NFT art. We're seeing generative AI art, like just this proliferation of anyone can create anything. So there'll be a lot of noise, a lot of not so good art pieces on the market. Whereas, so I would like to ask you, what is the definition of a good piece of art that maybe someone would like to invest in? And then, the sort of follow-up question is, if you wanted to invest in art of this kind, what do you look for? Where do you find it?
Okay. I think that the answer is actually, I mean, making, for instance, generative art, it doesn't make it easier or faster. Actually, it's possibly more complex because you have to I mean, it involves much more planning and structure and thinking and thinking ahead and thinking thinking about the computer, no? And again, as everything, first of all, a strong concept makes a piece of work stronger. So if there is an idea and it's not just an aesthetic piece, a pretty thing, then I think obviously it will last longer, and it will have the right appreciation. There is a tendency I see about when people do use AI or generative arts, they feel like they connect to a certain aesthetic, that feels very kind of, the future needs to look like this. But it's not necessarily the case. The future, that's a vision we have of the future, which is kind of a cliche, So this one, when I started working on this project, I just, okay, this is quite brave, because actually it's quite basic. This look, it's very essential. I mean, it's completely detached from whole aesthetic that people connect with the generative arts world. But I just, okay, I have to do something which connects with me, so with my aesthetic, and obviously I'm as I'm working as a graphic designer, I have a very clean I like clean shapes. I like kind of the thing. Put order and very strict rules. One thing which is kind of I will explore more, which I understand I haven't really explored so much on this project, just to do something which is more generative, not just to try to get to a point where I can really create an ecosystem that then start generating something which goes completely out my control. Yeah.
Fantastic. I know you weren't necessarily involved in the coding side of things, but could you tell us a little bit about the coding, like what type of code was used?
Oh, I can't. It's really not my area, but no, it's kind of it's a bit deliberate in the sense that not that it would have been too complex for me to get into the code as well as the creative. So we split the roles very, very much. Okay,
So in terms of you working with a coder as an artist, the way you communicated and directed that was through saying, here are some attributes of the face. These things are this is the commonality. So we start with the nose, that's common in all of the features, and then we've got these rare pieces. Was that the main sort of direction that you?
Yeah, the main direction was kind of how can we do this? How can we do? And then, but I mean, we use the language in between. Then obviously I'm familiar with what can be done and all that, but it was mainly about one was a vision and the other one was a kind of a problem solving and a strategy too. And it's similar to my experience working with musician in animation. Now, I don't know how to play an instrument, but I know I have a sense of rhythm and how I like the mood and all that. But if you ask me how to write them in the pentagram, I don't know.
Fantastic. And please, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. So my last question is around, masks, and you are drawing some really interesting parallels of, masks that were worn for theatre to nowadays with avatars. Those are almost masks for ourselves within the digital world. And during this time, we're looking at, humans and humanity versus robots and digital intelligence and animals. And I really feel that, animals don't wear masks at all. So it's what makes us different as human beings. Do you think that masks make us more or less authentic? And why do we wear masks?
No, I don't think it's actually sometimes it's a way of enhancing a quality. So for instance, you in many cultures, the mask is not a way of hiding, but more representing you. So if you're traditionally, if you're kind of a soldier, you wouldn't wear that mask, and that's the part of in your community. So and it's the same with avatars. Sometimes it's I mean, some people use if you choose to use an avatar to hide yourself, that's not because the avatar exists. It's because that's your personality. That's you would. The option is to use nothing I think the whole world is extremely fascinating, and when I started looking at it, there's like no end to it. That is one of the most ancient thing is that is mask is part of every culture. Is part nowadays and in the past in every continent is incredible. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Are there any more questions from the audience? Rupert, I know that you are fascinated with the world of art, but you weren't available for the full presentation, so I'm sorry he might connect after the call. But one thought I had was, you know, because you have a background in dance, which I do as well, and you're now looking at typography, I've seen some beautiful photos of people's dance moves and body shapes that look like letters.
Wow.
So that could be, you know, because of the movement element of moving from one letter to the next. I think that would be really fascinating.
Wow, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
This
so
is
much.
recorded, so anyone can watch it back afterwards. And I guess we're now going to pass over to Benjamin if you are ready and available. Okay. So Benjamin works in the blockchain space, and he's going to be moving on now, talking less about animation, but generative AI from a blockchain perspective, which is always a fascinating topic. How are you, Benjamin?
I am fine, France. Fine, Fedka. How are you doing?
Okay, perfect. Yes. I'll pass the mic over to you now, and you can see if you can share your screen as well.
Okay, no problem. Can you see my screen now?
We can see Zoom. We can see
my screen.
Okay, now we can see a Word document.
Okay.
Okay, now we can see dimai.ai.
Great. So my name is Benjamin, and particularly I started working in the blockchain space in 2018. So currently I'm the head of business development. Dim AI is a generative art software, but then just like my topic for this session will be its synergy of generative AI and blockchain. So, and this is what we are doing in Dim AI. But first of all, I would like to go through some topics before I would now come to what we do at Dim AI to be able to connect the both together. So, generative artificial intelligence, often referred to as generative AI, as it possesses a extraordinary ability to create, mimic, and even for example, currently we have different generative AI models like music models, image models, and the likes of it. And it's for quite a long time. But then I'm going to talk about how this generative AI and then blockchain could synergize, and also give us use cases of different blockchain and synergizing it with AI. But in the aspect of generative art, about the use of NFTs, I don't know if you know about NFTs, but before AI came into place, companies who create these NFTs have had issues of high threshold, because you have to pay graphic designers some big amount of money to create these arts, and then before it's deployed to blockchain, this threshold lowered, because I can use AI to generate these arts, which gives me more time and then reduces the threshold for creating these arts, these arts and these animations. So, but then there's been a debate of authenticity, ownership, and security. And this is where blockchain comes into place, because blockchain has some sort of data that make our information secure on the blockchain network using smart contracts. So most people have been advocating that blockchain should be infused with artificial intelligence to be able to create digital ownership. For example, I'm going to show you an art I created on DIM AI. This is an art I created on DIM AI, but then you see, this art already has a token ID. It was created on the Quitman network, and it has a contract address. So it gives me ownership of this artwork, of the generative art, because nobody can come and claim this art, because I have smart contract keys which shows that this art was generated by me. So this is what blockchain does for us, because blockchain is able to store assets on digital network. So we have some other various use cases, like in the medical field, where people now store patient data on blockchain because of its secure network. So this blockchain can assist generative arts in terms of security, one, and in terms of monetization, because this blockchain now has given creators the platform to monetize their art. For example, this art was created using blockchain, and it was created using AI. But then I've converted this art to NFTs and they stored on a blockchain. So I can monetize this creation, because I can be able to sell these NFTs to somebody else, and I can earn royalties from it, because OpenSea has a method of, for example, when I store NFTs and I sell, even when you keep reselling, I keep earning royalties from the resale prices of those NFTs. So just look at it in such a way where generative AI art, which can generate music models, generate videos, generate pictures. So when we convert these arts and this generation, these creations of ours to NFTs, for example, it gives us an opportunity to monetize our creations and keep earning royalties from our creation. So this blockchain is going to be very interesting for creators, for artists, for the music industry in the generative AI aspect. So coming to DIM AI, I used to be a blockchain specialist, which is my area of specialization. But then I co-founded DIM AI, and my idea of co-founding this was, if people talk about AI and then people are afraid of AI because they feel like, my work can be stolen, my generations can be stolen, my content can be stolen. And I thought of, okay, why don't we find a way to add authenticity to this context? For example, I create a content and I can add authenticity to this content. So even if this content cannot be created somewhere else without credit being given to me, because I have the original keys to this content, I have a proof to show that this content is being owned by me. And this is what blockchain does for us. So you can see that this also has a contract address. If I copy this contract address, for example, and put on the blockchain, this can be traced to the network on which it was created. So it kind of secures my creation. My artwork cannot be stolen from this. So this is how blockchain synergizes with generative arts. in so many places. Let me open Fabric. So this is another AI tool, but then this AI tool intersects with blockchain. How does it happen? You know, blockchain gives people space to, we have blockchain projects which give people space to build different applications on their blockchain network. So this Open Fabric kind of mimics that blockchain method using artificial intelligence, where I can build different artificial intelligence products on their layer. So this helps with security, this helps with scalability because they provide the infrastructure. So I can come with my computing power. One thing about blockchain is that blockchain tries to empower small holders, for example, small business owners who don't have enough resources to create so many applications and projects. So they provide most of these resources for you. You just come and just using smart contracts and you create your applications. So the idea of this artificial intelligence project, Open Fabric, is to kind of mimic this blockchain aspect where they already have the infrastructure. So what you just do is to just bring your computing power, and then you can be able to create your AI product on there. And they have some kind of generative AI arts, creating memes, creating avatars, and the rest of it using artificial intelligence. But then the block of it, or the point where it intersects with blockchain, is the ability to convert these creations to NFTs. And because these creations are created on the blockchain, there's a key phrase that comes with it, because you can be able to trace these artworks to somebody. That is why sometimes the token IDs are located to these creations, and a network ID where you can be able to trace these particular creations to a particular network and a particular, even though blockchain is decentralized, it doesn't mean that I'm tell you it comes from Benjamin. But then I have a certain token ID and a certain contract address that kind of shows that I created this specific artworks. And then coming to DIM AI, the first thing we've done is generative art, but then going forward, we intend to create what we call virtual characters. It's been something on this generative AI space currently, where people can create animations and can create virtual characters, whereby I am the one on this video talking to you now, but I can be able to create a replica of me who can attend virtual meetings for me and all of that. But then this is going to have an issue in the sense of security and deception. But the only way to tackle this security concerns and this other means of deception is to intersect AI with blockchain, because intersecting AI with blockchain makes it secure. Because, for example, a certain contract address, a certain token ID can be allocated to certain virtual characters. So it doesn't give room for proliferation of these virtual characters to be created by people. I can not come up and then go and create a virtual character that resembles Francesca, because this blockchain kind of gives this security that everybody has their own personal contract address. I cannot imitate that. So, but then blockchain also gives room for scalability, that it's not centralized, it's decentralized. So it gives small holders power. It doesn't give room for monopoly, because if we keep going by that way, for example, big tech companies can monopolize the creation of artificial intelligence, and then the small people like us will be kicked out. But then blockchain gives space for small holders like us. That is why they're trying to intersect AI with blockchain, provide infrastructures for small owners to be able to build AI products using blockchain. And then when I build this product, it kind of gives security to that project and that product, because it cannot be imitated, because it has a specific contract address and a certain token ID that can be allocated to show the originality of these addresses. And then, generative AI has brought about ethical considerations, because most people feel like these things, these arts are forged and all of that. But with blockchain, you will not have so much need for these ethical considerations, because I will not be able to create the exact art you have created, because you already have an authenticity to that art using blockchain. So let me just stop here for now, and if there are any questions, I would entertain that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was wondering if I like the problem that you're trying to solve, because it's definitely a problem that needs solving. I think it's probably far more complex in either way, because you know, for example, Midjourney, it's trained on all of these different images. And you can use Midjourney to blend images together. You can write any prompt of an IP, say Louis Vuitton, for example, and Louis Vuitton and those images should probably belong to them. So there's a lot of IP issues already on existing generative AI platforms. Plus, you're technically not allowed to copyright. You don't own the copyright of generative AI artwork. So even if you NFT it, in some jurisdictions you don't own it yet. And then if you don't own it, it means you can't monetize it. So for example, Disney, they've got all of these assets. They could build their own generative AI to create new characters. But even if they did that, with today's laws, they wouldn't own what comes out of the generative AI tool. So I love what you're doing. I love that you're trying to solve this problem, but I think it probably needs to be embedded into Midjourney. It needs to be embedded into the generative AI product. So right from that moment, they can say, this is the algorithm at that point in time. This is all of the data training set. This is the prompt that got used. This is the user. This is the license that they were on. So I think it probably does need to be integrated further back into the creation phase. That's my point of view. I might be completely wrong.
You're
Rupert,
right.
what do you think?
You're right. One thing blockchain does is, like I said, blockchain has scalability and interoperability. So for us to be able to do these integrations, we also need blockchain, because blockchain gives us access to integrate so many applications together. Just like some exchanges now, blockchain exchanges are able to integrate AI applications, which they don't own, but they are able to integrate these AI applications to be able to work together with these exchanges by deploying it on blockchain. Some people use it for, let's say, trading analysis and to create news and articles on the blockchain. So this is what blockchain is also going to help us to do: interoperability, ability for different AI applications to integrate within themselves. For example, I've built an AI application that can create words and sentences. And for example, okay, I need to integrate this with a generative AI art. I don't need to start building a fresh application on my website. What I just do is to integrate these two different applications together on
Great.
a
Do you have your own AI like image generation tools? Am I correct in thinking that you do? And
yes,
what are you building that on? Is it on Stable Diffusion? Is it?
Yeah, it's built on Stable Diffusion, but we are trying to look at a process where we can integrate different AI models into one, not just using one model like transformer model or all of it, or language model, but just the ability to have all these models integrated into one. So currently, I can't really say this is a model we are building on, because we're trying to still think about how to bring about all these models together, which have prompted our reason to want to create a platform, a decentralized AI platform, to mimic the decentralization of blockchain, where different people can come together on an ecosystem and create their different applications on that ecosystem. So what we do is we provide the infrastructure, but then these people can be able to come with their computing power to create this. So within sort of minutes and, let's say, hours, with a written set of code, you can be able to create your AI application without so much to do, because this the infrastructure is already there for you. It's just for you to think of which model you want to create and all of that. And then with set of codes, just like in blockchain, we give you the codes to write to create your project. So that is what we're looking at to enable small creators the ability to create their own AI platforms.
Fantastic. And can you tell us a bit about the blockchain that you're on?
Yeah, we're on the Quitmere blockchain network. So the Quitmere blockchain is built on the BlockDAG consensus. So the BlockDAG consensus has a high security and it is scalable. It's not just traditional. It doesn't end at one point. There's ability for us to scale these projects, and then it has an interoperability ability, which kind of gives ability for integration of different applications together. So the BlockDAG is a new wave of, just like you have blockchain, but it's just a combination of blockchain and then the DAG consensus algorithm. So which kind of mimics the Bitcoin model of blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Great. Oh, fantastic. Super, super interesting. And can you upload your own artwork, or as Carolina had earlier,
Yes, let me show you these are some of the artworks I've been able to create. So these ones have not been minted into NFTs yet, but then these are some of the artworks I've created and I've minted into NFTs.
Mm-hmm. And that was artwork created in your tool, I believe, or can you also upload artwork from Midjourney, let's say? And how do you look through the permissions?
We're trying to create like I say about interoperability. Interoperability is about cross-chain. We're trying to do that in Q4 to give users ability to upload artworks from their gallery into our AI products, and then probably give them an option for editing and converting it to NFT. But for now, what we have is the ability to use the tool to create your artwork and then mint to NFTs. But then this is a developmental phase, and in the coming quarters, users will be able to upload artworks from their gallery and kind of have options to kind of either edit or leave it as it may be. And then we also want to do cross-chain interoperability, where users can create artworks on different blockchain platforms. Because for now, what we have is just the Quitmere blockchain, but then we have other chains like the BNB chain, the Polygon chain, the Solana chain. So we want to integrate and cross-chain with these different chains so that their users also on those chains can also create artworks on our chain.
Fantastic. Great. Any more questions from the audience? What are your next steps in terms of product roadmap and raising funds for your project?
Well, currently, what we're trying to do is, concentrate on our products first before fundraising, even though we would raise funds, but that might be Q1 of next year. But what we're trying to do is we are building our NFT marketplace, which will be open by next month, to now enable our users to transfer these artworks to the marketplace and be able to sell their artworks and monetize their artworks and earn royalties. But then for now, the minting of NFT is free. There's no charges attracted to that. The only charges here just a 0.something cent of gas fee to be able to convert these art creations to NFTs. And then coming further, we also want to collaborate with different marketplaces so that we don't just give our users options of one marketplace, so they can be able to transfer and sell these NFTs on different marketplaces, which will give them the ability to monetize their creation. But currently, our focus is on the product. Is in the beta phase currently. It's not yet on mainnet, so we keep testing it, and our users keep testing it to give us feedback on how to improve on this. So the version 1.2 will be out next month, and it comes with various other functions. So what we want to do is to add these various functions first and make the product great before we talk about fundraising.
Fantastic. Great. And what are the main challenges that you face in building this out, or in the AI space? Because you've got a background with blockchain and NFTs, now you're delving in the AI space. It's completely new field. How have you found that? Because you've spun this out really quickly.
Yeah, it's not been easy, but or once you have an interest in something, you kind of have to make researches and be able to do it. So currently, I think one of the major challenges being faced is we've not had so much, let's say, technical people in the space of integrating AI and blockchain. There are people who are good technically in AI and in blockchain, but then finding a balance between the two has been quite troublesome. But we'll have quite a few of them who have been very helpful with us. So that is the little challenge we faced. And then in terms of so many people still have some notions about AI and about AI, taking our jobs and all of that and all of that. So we're still finding a way to make sure that we are able to convince these people that these AIs are not destructive to them. Instead, it enables and assists their work more like an assistant. There's no company or there's no manager who doesn't have an assistant. So we kind of encourage them to see AI as an assistant who just assists them doing their work.
Fantastic. Well, that's really interesting to hear about that. And yes, that's definitely a challenge. I'm in a bit of a bubble with lots of people who are technologists like me and love these new innovations, but there's also a lot of kickback for sure with AI. Any thoughts from the audience? Any thoughts, Rupert, in terms of the IP side of things?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I think you're dead right in the copyright issue. It's sort of scary in a way because I feel it's hampering innovation. But I think what is true in all these situations is the legal frameworks lag the technological ones, and I understand why. It was pointed out that weird example, somebody has created a hard drive full of computationally derived melodies in a way that they could potentially copyright sue anybody subsequently for copyright infringement in a way to it's like the nuclear weapon threat of retaliation for anybody that gets to copyright infringement happy. But I do see that as being a big issue, and I think my concern with the NFT side of things is the art side is being played out a little bit. You're absolutely right in that NFTs predated a lot of the automated artwork, but if anything, the value of NFTs has plummeted. There's an argument you could be a little late to market, and just because we have easy ways to make images doesn't mean they're valuable now. So I think the problem this doesn't solve is how do you make them worth any money, let alone track the money that they're worth, if you get my idea. Has anybody been using your platform to actually sell and make money on the NFTs at the moment?
Yeah, that would be an interesting question. Like, is this working from a monetary standpoint?
Like I mentioned earlier, the marketplace is not yet live. So it is by next month that the marketplace will be live and users can sell these NFTs. But then we are not hammering so much on selling of NFTs and all that. Our most important focus on allowing users to convert it to NFT is mostly based on authenticity and digital ownership. So whatever value it is, it's probably how you decide to market it. For example, I might decide to say, okay, I have a music I've created using AI, and I've been able to on my own market this music, and somebody is interested. I say, wow, this music is good. I want to buy the copyright to this music. So you can be able to say, okay, go and buy it here on this platform. I am the owner, but our main focus is on digital ownership and authenticity. We don't have the ability and the power to control the price fluctuations of NFTs or how much anybody decides to market it. So our main focus is on digital ownership, but then we'll now give you an extra avenue to monetize your digital ownership. So the monetization is solely dependent on you, on how you market it. I can give a product to me, and I am Francesca. Francesca might have a more high-paying clients than I do. So it's basically dependent on our individual, capabilities and all of that. So we don't market the art for you. You do it yourself. We just give you a platform to be able to transfer this art and digital ownership to somebody else.
Fantastic. Great. so we have a little bit of time, so I'm going to start my presentation, but I'm going to also do it after the next talk. So the next talk that we have coming up is with Sandeep, and that will be at 11:30. So I'm now going to deliver my short talk. Right. So what I'm going to be reviewing are, I've done a little bit of research into AI tools within animation. So I'm going to be reviewing those and also touching on some technical terms, which I think are helpful to know, to understand how these tools work, and to know what you're looking for to get out of these tools. So here is a list of them. I'll share this presentation so anyone can go and check them out afterwards. So for me, animation is all about creating a story. So if you're a film director, you're going to be casting your characters, you're going to be setting the scene, what time are you in, what's the environment, but the storyline is really the starting point. So very similar to what Carolina was saying, good artwork needs to have a solid concept to begin with. And if you aren't familiar with telling stories, obviously you can get inspiration from already existing ones online, or you can use tools like StoryPath. So if you have writer's block, you can start with a storyline and then you can verge off into different narratives. And if you think of movies as a linear story, I think the future of games and films are that we'll have very divergent options. I always remember, Lost. You never knew what the screenwriters were going to cook up for the next week, and it just go in all sorts of weird and hallucinogenic sort of directions. So this is what it looks like. So the picnic begins, and then either you go into a fantasy world where there's a UFO that crashes into the picnic, or you go into, a romantic comedy where someone comes and joins. So that's the starting point.
Frankie, I'm still seeing Benjamin's screen.
Okay, let me stop.
Benjamin, would you mind stopping your sharing? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
So let me see if I can start again. I'll spotlight myself as well. Add spotlight. Here we go. And I'll remove the spotlight. Thank you for saving me there, Rupert. Great. Okay. So here we go. We've got top AI tools. Storytelling is a great starting point. And to help you create your storylines, you can use StoryPath. You can also use ChatGPT to start creating the story, start telling it about different characters, and you can really have a conversation with ChatGPT to help you brainstorm what that story is going to be. And this is what the tool looks like. Next, I'm going to talk about how you can go from images, just refresh this, how you can go from images to animation or video to animation. So the first concept, technical term, is outpainting. So here you have girl with a pearl earring, and what's happened here is outpainting, where you can enlarge the frame and you can change the aspect ratio. This is really super helpful if you have filmed something, for example, if you've made a piece of art and suddenly realize that actually you want your main users are on a mobile phone, so they need a completely different dimensional film. And a lot of films are now looking at how can we make this movie mobile friendly, because most people are watching things on the move, commuting to work, for example. So that's the first technical term. And a great tool for this, for video outpainting, is CapCut. CapCut, I didn't realize until very recently, is actually one of ByteDance's technologies. And you have various different features here. So you've got local editing, you've got the video magic mix, which is style transfer, so a tiger onto a dog, and then you've got the video outpainting there. Next, we've got image to image interpolation. And what it does is it finds points and it will try and identify what is the missing part in between of the sequence. And actually our brain does a really good job of this. If you don't tell us certain information, if we're in a good mood, we will fill in the story with something positive. If we're in a bad mood, we'll paint some sort of fill in the gaps with something sort of negative and our paranoia. And here is a great tool, Genmo, which does this really well. So you can upload various different images and it will, just like a cartoon, flick through those images into a really nice animation. Kaiba does this also. And it's a bit rough. You can see their eyes are kind of looking in different directions. It's obviously not photorealistic, but it's still fun. Whether this style will last for long, who knows? And then we've got stable animation. So lots and lots of tools are flooding the market with this image to image interpolation. Next are the concept of depth maps. So if you look at your mobile phone, if you've got quite a recent phone, you'll have maybe 2 cameras, maybe 3. And each one of those cameras are doing different things and bringing those photos all together. What a depth map does is it will try and understand the distance of the camera to the object, so that 3-dimensionality, where is the floor plane, and that's super helpful for then creating these videos which are 3-dimensional. People are moving around in a space. And then we also have connected with depth maps 3D light field images. This also takes into account the light rays. So say I'm standing by a window, although with a depth map, you can see that the nearer objects are lighter and the further away objects are far away. This can be skewed by light rays coming in and different colors. Say someone's wearing, light, bright luminescent clothing. So to take that into account, you need 3D light field images. And for this, there are some very new cameras that are coming out with micro lenses and photo sensors and all sorts of new technology that will allow for this. And here is Layer Pix. What they are doing is not only are they creating the tool to create these images and a social network to share the images, but they're also creating the hardware. So if I was to bet on a company in the future within the space, this is probably number 1. And then the second one is Wondershare, which I'll share afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. So I'll just pause that and continue. So this really hasn't hit mainstream yet, but I'm sure it will soon. And then now we're moving on to objects. How do you create objects? This is more for bringing into 3D worlds in the metaverse and games and creating animation from those spaces. So how do you take an object from the real world and bring it into the digital world? One of the first ways of doing this is through photogrammetry. So you might have come across this if you've ever seen someone standing in a rig where you've got cameras facing them from all different angles, and then the lighting will change. So they will, again, account for the lighting differences. You can now do this really simply, even though our hands aren't particularly steady, with your mobile phone. So you can do it with your mobile phone, or in the first case, this is with a drone. So as long as the camera actually understands the distance from the subject with the depth map, it doesn't matter if you don't know the exact positioning of the camera. It can work it out afterwards. So you've got two different use cases here. So really super helpful for any chartered surveyors, any architects, but equally for creating smaller models. The second element is LiDAR. So LiDAR is essentially a laser, and it will create an image, but not an image that you would necessarily want to look at, but it's highly accurate, and it's actually being used for autonomous vehicles. It's useful for in night settings when you don't have light at all. So for night vision goggles, for example. And here is Luma AI.
Welcome to the Luma AI beta. Let me walk you through creating your first Luma capture using our guided capture mode. Medium-sized objects are a good place to start. You'll need to be in a well-lit environment, which allows you to freely move around your entire object. Avoid scenes where your movement will cast shadows on your object. Always start by making sure your camera lenses are smudge-free. Next, open Luma and tap the plus button to begin a guided capture. To define the object, point the crosshairs at the center of the object you want to capture and confirm with a tap. Move about 90 degrees around the object, point the crosshairs toward the center of the object, and tap again.
So that was Luma AI. So there are two different things there. There was the photogrammetry, but then there was also the virtual fly-through, which is great for estate agents. And then we've got Polycam. On the left here, we've got photogrammetry of a sphinx. And then on the right, we actually have 360 images, which can be brought into animation tools like Blender. And now onto avatars. So we all want to sort of digitize ourselves and feature in some of these animations, or maybe you've got friends and family that you want to feature in animations, or maybe you're a fan of a celebrity or a musician that you want to bring in. So we're going to be discussing how to create those characters. So Avatar, again, uses photogrammetry with your mobile phone. And here is a sort of brief demo. So it will create a pretty photorealistic avatar of yourself, and then you can export it into 3D worlds. You can rig it and make it move how you want to dress it. So fairly similar to Ready Player Me, but Ready Player Me just accepts one image, whereas this accepts, multiple images of your face. So it's a little bit more accurate, I would say. Then we've got style transfer. So this is where you start with one form of image, and then you can put on top of it a different style. So as you can see, you've got an image of a cat, and then you're adding various different artistic styles to get this, this output. And you can maybe change the Mona Lisa, for example, and make new variations. And this is used for tools like image to cartoon. So when you want to cartoon yourself as a Pixar animation, or Disney character, that's what this does. As you can see, cartoons tend to have huge eyes and they can be fairly discriminatory in terms of facial features. So although it's really fun to cartoon ourselves and make ourselves look younger and beautiful, it's also good to be more representative of who we are today. And then the last part is to do with speech. So speech takes text and then it turns it into speech, so text-to-speech synthesis. This is Google's workflow. Microsoft also have their own. And there are several different tools out there which you can upload your avatar, upload your text, choose your voice, your accent, and then it will create some great animations.
Hi, I'm Danielle, an AI presenter created by DID. Let's walk through the Creative Reality Studio and learn how to use its various features.
So great for product demos, maybe videos on your website explaining what your website does, maybe even presentations. Here's Synthesia, they have a similar product.
What does it mean to be human? Where is the line between person and machine? Or does the line even exist? No idea. I'm here to tell you about Synthesia. Alan here has a lot to say and nothing but text to say it.
So that's Synthesia. Then we've got HeyGen. A number of these tools are now integrating with presentation tools such as Canva.
Meet HeyGen on Canva. Generate engaging talking video for your designs in minutes.
All you need to do is log into Canva and click on the app to create with HeyGen. First, choose an AI avatar that suits your company style. Next, craft a script that tells your brand story. Then, pick a voice that brings your story to life. Finally, throw videos into your Canva designs. The magic power here, your video can be anything. Welcome to the future of video creation, powered by HeyGen and Canva.
Perfect. Yepic, we're going to have a presentation from Yepic in a minute.
Welcome to Yepic's.
So I'll save that for later. Next, we have movement. So it's great to have our face. It's great to have speech. But if you are directing an animation and there is a fight scene, they're dancing, there's, you know, some sports going on, that's where you need movement to continue to tell the story. And I've worked a little bit in motion capture, and so the technology behind motion capture is computer vision on the one hand. So again, it identifies different objects. These are separate objects. This is the floor plane, and this is the distance from the camera. And then the next part is pose estimation. So as I stand, it will understand, okay, here are my eyes, my ears, my shoulders, my hips. And once you've got that, you can very easily retarget the movement to an avatar. So this is motion pose estimation. So pose estimation is really important for animation. Also, if you're in the fashion world and you've got an image of a model and you want that image to pose in a different way, this is the best way to control that. Okay. So looking at motion capture for 2D images, one of the best tools that has come out recently as an open source project of Facebook Meta, would you believe, is animated drawings. So children can make their drawing and you will create that rig and do the pose estimation manually, and then it will create these fun little animations. But they've been flooded with requests for other things apart from cartoons, from anime to all sorts of different things. And then we've got the 3D motion. So this is where you have a 3D character. So here's motion capture with a mobile phone called, and the tool is called Plus. So you can download this onto your iPhone. this is their studio, which can show you how you can move the avatar rig, and then you can create an image. And I'll now show you the motion capture side of things. So you can effectively, on the left-hand side, you can change to any character that you're looking for. And the most important thing to see if this is a good quality is to look at the floor plane. Are the feet on the ground? Are they sliding and shifting around, or are they going through the ground? So that's the best way to do quality control. Then you've got Cascader. This is actually all AI generated movement. So you don't need someone to act and move around and to capture that exactly and choreograph that whole piece. You can literally write what you're looking for and it will create that for you. However, if you want something that's more realistic, it is helpful to actually get an actor to do that movement for you. But if you are looking for them to do something completely extraordinary, you know, 15 black flips, the splits, who knows what, then this is what you could use. Deep motion is another tool for motion capture. And so some motion capture systems are optical, so they use cameras. Others use suits. And so you wear the suits. They're quite uncomfortable. You're wearing lots of different computers. And also because you're wearing lots of computers with battery packs and things like that, anything that's electrical will affect the end result. So at this point in time, it's as a football player, you know, you wouldn't really be able to wear that suit and go out and play football and come back and get the 3D motion. So optical motion capture is still far more powerful. Kinetics is another one. So there are all sorts of different tools that are coming onto the market. And Crikey AI, so text to animation. And Move Me. So this is an example. This is just a monocular motion capture with just one camera, but you can already see with one camera, it doesn't really work. The sort of sliding on the floor, hovering above the ground. It really depends on the quality that you're looking for. Next, we're going to look at film and CGI. So automated animation processing is a way to look at the whole animation process and automate it. So there aren't many tools on the market which will help speed up all the different processes all in one. However, there is one which this was probably my second favorite tool, which is Wonder Dynamics.
They say all great stories start with a sense of wonder. And what if bringing those stories to life wasn't limited by our resources, but only by our imagination? Welcome to Wonder Studio, where making movies with CGI is as simple as selecting your actor and assigning a character.
And it's gone quiet.
The actor's performance across cuts and automatically animates, lights, and composes the CG character directly into the scene. Whether it's one shot or a full sequence, Wonder Studio analyzes and captures everything from body motion, lighting, compositing, camera motion, and it even tracks the actor's facial performance. All the artist needs is a camera. Filmmaking is a medium of creativity and collaboration.
So that's that. You can definitely check out Wonder Studio. I think they're fantastic. And then the last part is to do with the environment itself. So we kind of touched on this with depth maps, so high dynamic range imaging layers all these different images together. And this is also known as HDRI images. So low dynamic range image has 8 bits of data per color, whereas HDRI image has 32 bits of data. So when it comes to something as complex as, say, a city landscape or an environment with the setting sun, you really do need HDRI images to translate well. And game environments are basically the world that we create for games, and it can be used for a metaverse, but it can also be used for creating these animations. And you would use a tool like Unreal Engine or Unity. Unity is lower poly, so maybe lower quality, lower polygon count. So you have to have more kind of like squares and blocks. So kind of the equivalent of pixels with images, whereas Unreal Engine is being used today by game developers, filmmakers, architects, manufacturers of cars and automobiles, all sorts of different people. So this is Opus AI, and if you are looking to create a 3D world, a 3D environment, this is a great example. All you have to do on the left-hand side is just write what you're looking for. So whether it's a rural scene or more of a city scene, you can create that just through text prompts. And then this is virtual production. So if you've got actors and you want to create that environment, you can you would use a big screen where you would display that environment on a screen. And multi-plane cameras, this is a concept of which was invented by Walt Disney. So he had Mickey Mouse moving and he had the moon in the background. In order to show that the moon was further away, he created these layers and would film on the top. So as they flicked through all of the different images, it gave that sense of perspective. Not sure if you can hear, I can't hear anything. Okay, it looks like it's muted. But you can see the invention that they created. So you can see the different layers of images, and the camera was placed at the top. And so this was a real innovation back in the day for creating animations. And then here is Kubrick. So many years later, today, we are still using the same invention in terms of creating that dimensionality. And so what they do is they'll take a HDRI image that was created through generative AI, and then they will create those layers according to the depth map. So you can see what a virtual production studio looks like with, massive big cameras, lighting, and here they're trying to estimate the positioning of the actor in the scene. Okay, so that's my presentation. I'm open for any questions, and then next up, we've got Sandeep, and I'm just going to chase him and see where he is. Okay, he's about to join. New technical challenges. Please feel free to use the chat and introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do in life. It'd be great to meet you. So Sandeep is based in India. He went to YC, Y Combinator. He's been exploring the Web3 space and blockchain, NFTs in the metaverse, and has a startup, which he's a creative director and CEO of, which is called Project X, which is enabling art to live. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has in store here. So I'll just share my screen, share his project. So this is Project X, and we can see the future of fashion is virtual. And they are working on the virtual fashion space, making it more believable. I'm working on runways and virtual shows. And I'm sure that we will see more soon. I'll just share more of his profile as we wait for him to join. So here's one of his latest videos.
Enthusiast who dreamed of building something. I was a teenage college boy, a tech enthusiast who dreamed of building something great for the world. One day, while working on a project in my dorm room, I stumbled upon a mysterious piece of technology. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before, and I couldn't quite figure out how it worked. I was determined to unlock its secrets. As I delved deeper into technology, I began to encounter strange and challenging obstacles. I faced setbacks and roadblocks, but I refused to give up. I knew that this technology held the key to something special, and I wouldn't rest until I unlocked its potential. Despite the difficulties, I persisted and eventually succeeded in unlocking the technology's potential. I discovered that it was a groundbreaking innovation that could revolutionize the way we live and work. But with this success came a heavy responsibility. I realized that technology could be used for both good and evil, and I had to make a difficult decision about what to do with it. In the end, I chose to use my invention for the betterment of humanity. I started a company and worked tirelessly to bring my technology to the masses. I faced many more challenges along the way, but I never gave up on my dream. My mysterious and challenging experience changed my life forever, turning me into a successful entrepreneur and a respected figure in the tech community. I never forgot the lessons I learned and the impact that my technology had on the world. And I knew that I was destined to continue creating and inventing to make the world a better place for all.
Okay, so that's a fun use of generative AI technology to create a cartoon of yourself with text to speech. I'm glad to hear that he's using this technology for the betterment of humanity and for good rather than evil. It's always comforting. And he also has a background in virtual production and 3D. So here we go. He's finally joining us. Good. Hello, Sandeep. Welcome. Are you with us? Are you in a place where you can present today? Oh yes, perfect.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You should be able to share your presentation. I've given a brief introduction to you and your project. Checked out your LinkedIn, so great. We're ready to rock and roll.
Sure. Hey, Mate. I'm currently years old from India. I'm currently studying computer science and in second year. So maybe I'm the youngest speaker in today's cohort. So I started my journey back then in 2020 during COVID times, and I was into Web3 since last 2 years. I started in a company called House of Cards, where I have been working for about 1.5 years, and currently I am one of the largest Web3 communities, which is TPH. So at House of Griffin, last year we have launched India's first fashion show in Metaverse in partnership with Papa. So it was the first brand to Web3 Metaverse fashion in India. So it was the main uh, point of contact overall the project. It was the project of 6 months, and we executed 2 months, and that's how I entered into Web3. So currently, I am building my venture, which is Project X. The idea is to present an immersive experience to people before they make a purchase online. So think of it like a virtual try-on where you can see how a dress looks at you before you make that purchase online. So we have been working on this project since the last 6 months, and it's in MVP right now. We are testing with few users. And apart from the metaverse, I am a blockchain developer and a game developer. So I have the experience of Unreal Engine, and I do all type of VFX stuff. And yeah, that was my introduction.
Great. Do you have a presentation, or would you like to actually walk through your project?
You check our metaverse. It was a reel that is available on Instagram.
Okay.
And currently, the project I'm currently building is in MVP right now, and we are testing with few youth in my college. So it was this uh, this session is, first of all, I haven't experienced such speakers or panel discussion before, so it was my first give the myself. I'm looking forward to connect with people in the same spot.
Okay, well, you've got 30 minutes to present whatever you want. So what I would suggest is you can share your screen and talk through some of your projects and show us whatever you have available. That would be great.
Uh,
Do you know how to share your screen or with Zoom? You just hit the share screen at the bottom of your screen and then you can
okay, wait. Visible right now?
yes, it's loading up. Perfect.
Okay. So you can search Papa Don't Preach HOK Metaverse event on web. Pulse event. It happened actually last year. And also it got featured in major Indian magazines. I guess it's feasible, right?
That's great. Do you have any clips of it? Any videos
Yeah,
or
yeah.
that would be great to have a look. Amazing that you've got so much press.
Yeah.
And then it would be great for you to even share your screen in terms of it's great to have a look at the output, but how you did
These are
it. So
some
if you've
visuals
got,
of
I
the
don't know, GitHub, or you can open up some of the tools that you've used and
okay, so what
show
we
your
actually
process.
did,
That would be very helpful.
yeah, yeah. So what we actually did, these are the exclusive Lehenga lineup from Papa Don't Preach. So we actually made their digital twin. Means we actually 3D scanned their entire garment and we integrated in a 3D system or 3D virtual environment on Unreal Engine. And all the stuff you are seeing right now are 3D. So from the environment, the avatar, and the garments, and these are the real garments. So if you purchase their exclusive garment, you will get the NFT version as an add-on. These are some of the lineup they have for this metaverse. Uh, this is
Great. Would you like to run through maybe your GitHub and your process as well? or the tools that you use? At the moment, I can just see the Masala website.
How was it?
Would you be able to
Frankly,
show us some more of your work?
yeah.
You've got about 10 minutes. So what tools do you use? Could you walk us through your process?
So for the environment, we use Unreal Engine, and for character development, we use Blender. So the final rendering is basically done in Unreal Engine.
Okay.
And these are the actual garments. So we have 3D scanned the garment with all the details, with jewelry.
And
These are
would you
the
be able to show us from Project X, you do the virtual try-on. Could you show us a little bit of that? Give us maybe a sneak peek. Show us, what are the
virtual
AI
try. Right.
models that you use for the pose estimation? How does it work? What research
Yeah.
papers have you
Wait.
been using to develop out your model? Maybe you can just walk us through
Yeah.
the whole process of Project X.
So the idea right now, e-commerce is totally and to purchase any of the product means, let's say you are purchasing a garment, you don't know a product company A small size and company B small size will look after you make purchase. So now see how it looks before you make that purchase. So what we currently doing is
You have a sneak peek that you could show of Project X, or would you be able to show how you develop it with, GitHub, any of the research papers, or
wait. Basically, think of where all the products are, and once you click any of from page that it asks permission to open camera. Once you open your camera, you can stand in front of it and see comment set to a snap filter. Snap filters are not that.
okay. Do you have any other work that you could show us? Because at the moment we can just
Real
see
world.
the Papa Don't Preach metaverse event.
Yeah, it's loading. Wait.
Could you show us a little bit about, virtual try-ons? Like where can you go to, what's the process of building a virtual try-on? Could you walk us through that? Not the user experience, but the actual process of building it.
Yep.
Maybe you could show us some tools, some research papers that you use, some AI models.
Yep. Wait.
That would be super helpful.
you can see on the screen right now that once you click on the product, it will prompt into a page and try it. So in India, there is called Lakan who does iOS, but we thought to give it a actually until we got about 200 signups latest. It's beta now.
We're struggling to see the screen. It's probably an internet issue.
Maybe I guess that was it from my side. If you have any questions,
And so you applied recently to YC. Can you tell us a bit about that? Very sorry, everyone, about the internet connectivity seems to be not particularly good with Sandeep. We've got another presentation in 2 minutes with Aaron
I guess
Jones.
if you have any questions, you can surely ask.
Don't have any questions, but yes, I mean, I'd love to know about your YC Combinator experience. That would be helpful. And then if you can walk us through how you create a virtual try-on, that would be very helpful as well.
Basically, it works with object determination, and means you have an app where all the products are listed, and once you click on any of the product, it will prompt you at a window where it will ask permission to open your camera. Once you can see how it looks at you. So this is the overview of the idea, and from the tech side, it uses object determination and NLP mainly, and you have to train the ML model in such a way that it can estimate how the outfill will fit in the human being. So you have to take thousands of data of the 3D models or the real models, and once you drop the data set into an ML model, it will um, it will basically analyze all the data and come up with predictions.
So how many
So,
data points do you need of the fashion? How many photos do you need of the fashion to train a model?
the more data you can fit, the results will be great.
Okay, great. And can you have synthetic data? So can you, for example, use digital fashion that was created in Clo 3D and just take lots of pictures of that? Would that work or not so much?
So actually, we're doing the digital twin version. Means all the garments are real. So digital twin of them. So if you see a garment on the platform, the digital twin will be displayed on the screen as a virtual try-on. I hope you got the point.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Sandeep. That was fantastic. Unfortunately, Aram will not be able to make it today because his partner has been assaulted at work and threw him into a glass panel. So it sounds like, yeah, some aggression at the workplace there. Not great. So I think that's it for now.
Having some more
Or later
experience.
on today, we've got 3 more presentations at the end of today. We've got one with Xander. So basically our speakers from the US. So we have one at 4 o'clock, and then we've got Kaylee at 4:30, and then we've got Leo at 6 o'clock. So I think we will pause for now and reconvene later. I hope to see you all at 4 o'clock. Thank you very much for persevering and staying with us. Bye-bye.